The wait is over. Today, I think this is almost 2 years after I found it, I will finally begin the restoration project of this Lasko Ultra-Force box fan. This is a fan I've been looking for probably over 10 years now, and I was ecstatic to finally find one. And while this one is not flawless by any means, it is something to work with, and because of how rare these are, it may be as close as I ever come to owning one. Now this particular instance is absolutely disgusting. You can see the motor has nearly blocked up with dust, and really this right here is one of the only sources of failure to these older fans. When these vents get blocked up and the air doesn't pass through there anymore, that's typically when they fail. Other than that, they really don't fail that often. Now this one, it has a problem with the medium speed. It does not work correctly. Unfortunately, that's somewhat of a common issue with these motors. These were not the best motors ever, and they did have some issues. I've seen a number of these motors fail on medium. Unfortunately, the switches and the handle are pretty jacked up. I'm going to do the best I can to fix this. I just wish there was more of it here. But again, I'm happy that I have what I have, even though it's not perfect. So what I'm going to start with doing is we're going to wash the guard off. This isn't too bad, but it definitely needs to be cleaned. We'll wash that off, and I'm going to get the front guard off, and we're going to wash that as well. And with that guard removed, we can now pull the blade off. I'm not sure how easily this is going to come. I imagine probably harder than easier. Oh, actually that wasn't too bad. So there's that. The inside of it is pretty filthy. The blade is nothing out of the ordinary. I believe this is just a standard blade from the D blade era. Actually, this blade is looks like it's kind of warped a little bit. I wonder if this is even, I imagine this shouldn't be quite so warped. It looks like the leading edge of the blade is bent that way too much. So maybe this should be replaced. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Huh. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that before. This is something I've seen in ceiling fans more than a few times, but I can't say I've ever seen that in a box fan. Some kind of a string. And that is on there super tight. Oh dear, multiple strings. Huh. Well, that's just goes to show you really never know what you're going to find when you go into a fan that's been around the block more than a few times. That was kind of surprising. Alright, so now what I want to do is remove the motor from the housing here. So I'm going to take off this plastic piece to free the wires. I'll put that in my bag of parts here because I don't think I'm going to finish this today. I'll put all these screws in here as well. and I'm going to detach the motor. Oh, it's actually a machine screw. I'm going to put this into the parts bag as well. Cleaning this motor is going to be interesting. That thing is caked with dirt. I tend to think this was actually cleaned at some point, because there's no way there's this much dust on the motor and only that much dust on the blade. So I guess somebody at some point tried to clean this, but they missed the most important part. Oh my gosh. Look at that. That is unreal. Look at how much dust. That's probably like a good 1/8 of an inch thick. You know, I've never seen anything quite like that before. I'm not gonna be able to fit this screw in. I'll just drop it down this way. I'm gonna get a good close-up view of that. That is incredible. Oh my goodness. And you know what? After all this, the motor still runs. Alright, I am going to take the rest of the components upstairs and give that a bath, and then we'll come back and get some more video. That's everything washed. I'm getting tired, so I'm going to take a break for the night. I'll let this dry overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow. Now we're going to clean and service the motor. This is really something. Usually they don't get like this until like 30 or 40 years of use. This must have been used very heavily. Although actually, I mean, this is from, it's about 20 years old probably. Well, anyways, I got the vacuum out here. A couple gusts of compressed air would clean this out, arguably clean it out better, but I don't have the air compressor set up today, so we're going to do it this way, and we'll split it open and get the inside cleaned out as well. So this is where the vacuuming, it kind of fails, because if you just vacuum the surface, it really doesn't clean it well enough. You can see there's still dust covering the windings inside there, whereas on the other side, where the air doesn't get pushed through, you can see how clean it is. And this is what it needs to look like in order to cool properly. So you still have to split it open if you're just going to vacuum it. Now I was going to split it open anyways to lubricate it, so that's fine. But if you're doing this, just vacuuming it is not good enough. You have to blow it out if you're not going to open the motor up. So let's get this motor opened. It's two bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. I think it's a 1/4 inch. There's even dust on the screw. if this doesn't split apart by itself, which it looks like it's not going to, I'm going to take a, had something I wanted to use, but I don't see it. Well, we can just use a common screwdriver. I'm just going to kind of tap this apart. Now you want to watch this connection here as well. This is starting to come out and I don't want that to happen. Okay, so now this is ready to come off. Now this is only half the battle because the real dirty side is there. There's some junk on the shaft here. This will not slide off over that, so I'm going to clean that off first. But let's just put that aside for the moment. And now I want to split this half. This will come off. This piece here will come off of the stator, but it will not go past this wire. So this will slide through here, but it won't go past the switch. So again, I'm going to try to just tap this apart here. This may not go as easily as the other side did. There we go. Okay, now we can get at what we really need to clean. Which is this, I want to get all this dust out of the stator here. Alright, so that's as clean as I'm going to worry about the motor for. It's not flawless, but it's good enough now to let the air move through here. Now, some of these wires are looking a little bit tarnished. I imagine those are the ones that carry the medium winding, which is not working as well as it should be. Now, I've been told, I think it was Tori had suggested to me that the medium tends to restore itself once the motor is cleaned and oiled. He's worked on far more of these fans than I have, so I'm going to take his word for it. But electrically that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But things happen that don't make sense sometimes, so it is what it is. I'm going to hope that happens. Otherwise, I'll have to rewind this if I want it to work properly, which I'm not sure that it's worth. It's doable. It's very doable with the way this is designed to actually be pretty simple. Physically, it's doable easily, but you know, that's a time-consuming process, and yeah, I'm not so sure I want to get involved with that for this. So now, what I want to do is we're going to service the bearings, which actually don't seem too bad, but I got to clean the shaft off. I need to get a ticker towel. Okay, I got a ticker towel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small piece here and I'm going to put some detergent oil in it. Here's one use for the red can, which doesn't go into the bearings. I'm going to take this detergent oil and I'm going to try to clean this off the best I can. Now, it may not all come off. We may have to actually sand it off, but hopefully enough will come off just to be able to get the shaft off. I mean, not the shaft off, the bearing off. Now, of course, it looks like that's not going to be the case because I put this glue on here. I don't know if it's like a glue or a Loctite type stuff. Oh, perfect. Look at that. It just came right off. Okay, good. So now I am going to take a piece of the ticker towel, just dry, and I'm going to clean off the surface of the bearing that contacts the, or the surface of the shaft that contacts the bearing. I can't speak today. And these bearings, despite the fact they're just sleeve bearings, economy grade sleeve bearings, they actually last a long time. And even if you don't oil them, which obviously is a bad idea, but even if you don't oil them, they seem to hang on for a good amount of time. So now for the shaft, or for oh my gosh, I really can't speak today. For the inside of the bearing here, I put this on a screwdriver, and I kind of wipe out the inside of the shaft. Inside of the bearing. This is a bearing. It's not even that late in the day. It's only 2 o'clock. Jeez. Oh, maybe I didn't sleep enough last night. And the same thing with the other bearing. And I'm using a nut driver, so it's a flat surface, not a common, or that 4 one, whatever it is, this one. You don't want to scratch the inside surface of the bearing. Okay. So that's clean now. Since this is visible, I'm going to wipe this off a little bit. Oh wow, that's only going to come off there. Alright, well I guess I'm not going to wipe that off because it doesn't want to come. That'd have to get repainted if it wants to be clean again. So we'll put this back together. Now here's the tricky part. No, it's actually not that tricky, it's just you got to pay attention. The shaft has to get slid in a certain way, otherwise it's going to spin the wrong direction. And I believe it would have gone in like this, because this is the back of the fan. Let's get that in there. And as you can see, even with no oil, it still spins relatively freely. So anyways, now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the video, where we get out the fan. Oh jeez, the oil thing just almost fell. Anyways, we're going to get out the fan oil now, and this is the 3-in-1 in the blue can, and you can see this is SAE 20 motor oil, and it's a special blend for 1/4 horsepower motors or larger. This motor is not a 1/4 horsepower, it's probably like a 1/6 perhaps, I don't know, whatever. But it's for fans, and that's what matters, because the other oil, it's just not for fans. You can see the fan logo right there, whereas on this other can, the red can, it just doesn't have fans. It's got those crazy 2-wheel things, a saw blade, some kind of a shoe, hedge cutters, and then a wrench. I'm not really sure why I put oil on a wrench, maybe to protect the finish. I don't know. Anyway, it's not for fans. So this is for fans. I'm going to put some in the bearing itself, and I'm going to put some on the shaft, a generous amount, because I'm not going to, because there's no oil in there right now, so more than just the drop or two that would be normal. And I don't know if you can tell in the video or not, but it's spinning. I can feel it spins. It just effortlessly glides right along, spins longer. So that's good. Now we're going to do the same thing with the front bearing. So you can put oil onto the shaft, and I'll put some oil into the bearing itself. And I never worry about these oil. I don't think those really work. And now you have to make sure the 2 screws align to where they gotta be. Screw holes, so it should be like that. Snap this back together, and now it's probably not going to spin, or if it does, it'll probably be very tight. Yeah, it's very stiff. That's fine, that's normal. So I'll show you how to fix that momentarily. So I'm going to put the screws back in, both sides. And this does not need to go very tight, it just needs to be firm. And this is like anything else that you would torque, you want to try to do it evenly, so don't ratchet in one side all the way and then the other. Kind of do each side incrementally so it goes down evenly. And what I usually do is about the strength of 2 fingers on the driver is sufficient. Now, it's stiff right now, the shaft is pretty stiff. Not spinning very well. So I'm going to take a rubber handle screwdriver and I'm going to strike the shaft a little bit, and that's going to free it up. If it doesn't come as easily as you'd like it to, you can take a plastic one and kind of get a little more aggressive with it. But now it's spinning pretty freely. So I'm going to go ahead and power this up now. I'm going to switch it to setting 1. And this is actually a very dangerous situation here. This has completely come out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and slip that back in. And I just got to hope that this doesn't explode, because these motors were not the greatest. Yeah, they just weren't the greatest. Put the oil away in case we get flame out of this. And let's go. No fuse plug, so that makes this even more dangerous. Ah, the thermostat must be satisfied. Let's try that. Okay, that's running. Switch it down 1 position to medium, which was the least happy, and then low. Actually, that seems to have been low. It's high now, I don't know. Either way, it's working. So now we can begin to reassemble. And there's just a little bit of hair on here, which is kind of odd. Let's see if I can get that to come off of there. It's not my hair. And this is a little bit dusty, but again, I'm not going to go too crazy with this because you can't see it. And I'll wipe down this ribbon cable real quick here, and then we're going to get ready to reassemble. Okay, now we're pretty much ready to reassemble. Clean this off too a little bit. Alright, we're going to look at the handle now. I have this piece which broke off at some point before it came to me, and that's going to sit there like that. So I'll glue that in place. And it doesn't look great, but it looks better than it did. And then this goes here, this dial goes there, and that's the thermostat. Now what I don't have is the speed control knob, and unfortunately this one does not fit on the speed controller because the way the little notch is designed. That notch exists on the thermostat dial but not on the speed control dial, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about that. If somebody has either this whole top control panel or a dial for the speeds, or replace a motor for this, or replace a blade, any parts for this that you wouldn't mind parting with, I would be interested in it. So send me an email or something, and we can arrange that. Anyways, I'm going to glue this into place, put some other glue in here to reinforce this, because this is about to break off as well. And this is going to be kind of difficult, because I think this is going to be one of those cases where this stuff just, it's tired, it's old, and it just doesn't want to go back to what it should be. So I'll see what I can do with the glue, and then I'll pick up on the video again and show it fixed as best I can. Here's the handle cleaned. It's very heavily yellowed and very brittle. It's not perfect, but it's better than what it was. There is a way to reverse the yellowing process, but for something like this, I don't think it's worthwhile. I'm going to try to get this back in here without breaking the tabs. One of the tabs broke on me when I was trying to remove it originally, so I have to glue that back on, but hopefully I can get it to go on without any more tabs breaking off. Okay, looks like that was successful. So now I just have to glue back that one tab over there, which I will go ahead and do. I'm gonna plug in the glue gun. I forgot I have to do that still. And then we're going to put the motor back in. Something's not right there. I gotta figure out how this goes here. So the cord needs to be like this. Goes out there, and the controls have to make it up over to here. Like this. How exactly does that even stay in there? No, I have no idea. Yeah, it's been so long since I took this out. I just don't remember. Unless it just, oh, I see, okay, that just snaps in there. Oh, that's unsettling. I'm gonna get that in there without the switch breaking. That's gonna get done off video. And so then the motor, the motor has to come around to the other side here. Alright, so it goes something like this, I believe. Or does this come through this side? Yeah, it's going to be something like this, I think. And this just folds. I don't like the way that is, but that's how it works. And the switch will hook up here. So it's going to go like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this back into place. And then almost ready for a test. Out of the whole guard, there's only one broken slat. And I have it. It's kind of miraculous that there's no other slats broken considering how damaged other parts of the fan are. This is going to just get glued right back in here. Like that. And should be almost unnoticeable. Especially because it's on the back. Before the glue dries completely, I'm just kind of scraping off the excess so it's not so visible. It's another one of the things I like about hot glue is you can do that and it works pretty well. Okay, so that's that. From a distance you really can't even tell that it's broken. And so now I think we're ready to, oh, hold on, the thermostat. So, not thermostat, the speed controller, the knob physically won't fit on here because the bar doesn't come up high enough, so I'm going to have to do something different for that. This is what I did to the controls. I took a wooden dowel, I drilled a hole in it, and I stuck it on there. I've done this to a couple of different fans. It works great. It doesn't look great, but you know, I don't really have any other options unless I find another one of these, which is pretty unlikely. So, at this point, we're ready to reassemble and test. I did glue this wire down. I don't think you really have to do that. It just looks nice, and actually I think some of them came from the factory like that. I don't know if there was originally two of these, one down there. I tend to believe there probably was, but I only have one. Bearings are looking good. Let's go ahead and give this a test before I put the guard back on. Oh dear. That's a little dangerous. That is, it's on the high side too. Yikes. A little low temperature hot glue will make it safe again. That is scary. Well, you always gotta inspect everything when you're working with electrical, because you just never know. Oh dear, looks like there's another hole down here in the cord. This is not something I'm going to be using regularly. If it was, I would replace the cord if it's like this. But for the infrequent scenarios where I'm going to use this fan, this will suffice. It's not quite broken yet, but it's on its way here too. Yeah, this thing had a rough life. Alright, now we can do a test. And that should be off. It's live now. Start with low. Yeah, this blade is definitely not right. It's not moving very much here. I guess it must have warped or something in the sun, I don't know. Thermostat is working. Light goes out when it's running. Yeah, so this really needs a new blade. There's low, medium, huh. Well, I'll be. Tori was right. Ha! The medium comes back when you service it. That's incredible. I really had little expectation that was actually going to happen, but it looks like that's happened. Unbelievable. And high. Yeah, I almost am in absolute disbelief that that's running properly now. That's incredible. I can't believe that fixed it. I don't see any reason why that should have fixed it. But it fixed it. Well, you were right, Tori. Medium works again. Huh. Incredible. Yeah, this blade is definitely spoiled. So I'm going to have to either find a parts fan or something else. Gee, now that the medium works, maybe I will use this more often. The blade, it's bent. It should be like that, and it's like this. So I don't know how that happened. The blade doesn't look like it's... Oh, you know what? Actually, it does kind of look like it's deteriorating a little bit. Yeah, you can see it. It looked really close. I don't know if this will pick up on the camera or not, but looking real close. I don't know if it's capturing it or not. It's kind of blurry, but well, depending on whether or not you can see that, it's like cracking a little bit. So the blade is shot, unfortunately. But the good thing is the blade is not anything odd. It's just a standard. I mean, I've got another fan right here with the same blade. I like this other fan just as much, and I don't, well, not just as much, but I like this other fan, so I don't want to scrap it for the blade. But you can see the blade is, well, you probably can't see it on the camera, but the blade is not bent. It's, you know, the leading edge is flat, whereas the blade on this one, the leading edge is kind of like this, and so it's not moving here correctly. So I need to get into the blade for this in order for this to really be functional. I don't really want to use it like this because it's just making noise and not moving much air. Anyways, all that rambling aside, it does run, so let's go ahead and put the blade, or the guards back on. I gotta close this video because I keep talking. Put the guards back on, and then until I get some new parts, that will finally conclude the long anticipated video series on this No, I shouldn't say series. I'll be doing some more videos on this fan. I gotta do a video telling the story about this fan and why I wanted one. But this will conclude the repair series. So I'll get these screws in here and then we'll do one final test. Here we go. This is the final product, at least until I get another blade or something for it. It looks great. It cleaned up really well. The guard hasn't yellowed at all. It's really just the handle that's yellowed. Well, let's go ahead and turn it on because that's all that's left to do. Show the back real quick. Here's low. It's got a faint startup sound. And actually, I think it moves more air with the guard on, which is kind of curious. It does move air, it's just not anywhere near what it should be. So I definitely have to get another blade, which I don't know how easy that's going to be. Because I've got to find one, one that has this blade that's junky enough that I don't care if I take it from parts, and I don't have one that's junky. Alright, let's go to medium. That is... Tori, you are absolutely correct. After servicing, the medium works just fine. Honestly, I don't understand that. That does not make a single iota of sense to me because the bearings were fine before. I'm having a hard time believing it, and it's right in front of my face, but it works. The motor's fine. That's incredible to me. It's moving a good amount of air. I'm sure it would move twice as much if the blade was in better condition. Now let's go to high. Yeah, that medium is definitely just fine. Even with the blade as jacked up as it is, it's still moving a good amount of air. Thermostat works just fine. Bearings seem pretty happy. Alright, let's get the startup sounds. This will be startup on high. Doesn't sound very pronounced, but it could just be the extra noise in this room. It definitely seems to be running at full strength, full speed. So I guess the motor is fine. Okay, now we'll go to low. Actually would be an interesting thing to do is to put one of the blades from the old 3733 on here and see how that performs. Going it, that was high again. The speed control doesn't have a label on it, so I don't know what I'm doing here with this thing. I think this is going to be low this time. Yeah, that was low. Alright, so there's that. The Lasko Ultra-Force box fan. Restoration complete until I get some more parts. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.